Did you ever? Or have you ever? Which is correct? How can you improve your listening skills? What's the difference between doubt and hesitate? We're answering your questions today and helping you improve your English on this episode of
Aprender Ingles con Reza y Craig.
Hello and welcome. My name's Craig.
And my name's Reza.
And together with over 45 years of teaching English between us, Reza and I are going to help you improve your English and take your pronunciation, your grammar, your vocabulary, everything up to the next level. How are you doing, Reza?
I'm doing great, Craig. How about you? How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. Everything's good. Everything's fantastic. Looking forward to podcasting again this week. Let's start with a voice message from Patricia from Pamplona, who asks about the difference between doubt and hesitate.
Hi Craig, hi Reza. I'm Patricia from Pamplona. Thank you so much for your podcast, are so useful. I discovered you like 3 weeks ago. I have been studying English on and off for all my life. I gave it that for like over 15 years when I started university, but last year I was living in London with my family, with my husband and my kids, and I had no choice, so I have to start it again. And I tried to pass the CAE in London in June, but I got the B2, and I'm gonna try it again in 1 month. So let's see if I'm lucky. I have a question. Which is the difference between doubt and hesitate? Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much, Patricia. It was really nice to get your message. Sorry about the exam result for CAE, and I hope you have a better result when you take it the second time. So we're wishing you all the best for the next exam. Any comments, Reza?
Yes, your pronunciation is very good, Patricia. It's very easy to understand you. And it's a very good question. Although I would change one word in your question. You said, which is the difference? But really you mean, what is the difference between doubt and hesitate? We only use which when we're giving a choice of things like, which would you prefer, tea or coffee? But you do not know. There is no choice. You're asking us, what is the difference? I know why you said it, because in Spanish it's cuál. And some Spanish people think, oh, cuál is which. It's not actually. It's like when you say, ¿cuál es tu nombre? In English, we don't say which. We say, what is your name? There's no choice. So you should say, what is the difference between doubt and hesitate?
And that's a very good question. Let me give you an example with doubt. One thing about the pronunciation, there is a silent letter, a silent B in doubt. It's D-O-U-B-T. So listen to the pronunciation, doubt. I doubt. Doubt is when you think you cannot achieve or do something, or maybe you underestimate your ability to do something. You feel a bit uncertain. You're not very sure, not very certain about something. For example, I doubt Reza will arrive early today.
Yes, I am usually late.
But today you were on time. You
Yes.
arrived exactly on time.
I was not a minute early or late. I was exactly on time. Craig couldn't believe it.
I doubt that will happen next week.
He doubted me. He wasn't sure, but I proved him wrong.
There's an expression in English to be a doubting Thomas. If you're a doubting Thomas, you're very suspicious. You're quite negative about the outcome, about the result of something. So when Reza's punctuality is concerned, I'm a bit of a doubting Thomas.
Craig, what are your plans for this year for holidays?
Well, you know, we like to travel. We like to go away when we can. But unfortunately, this year, my dad's not very well. So I doubt we'll go on holiday this year. I doubt it. I doubt it. What about you?
I'm not sure. That's why I hesitated before I answered. I can't tell you yet.
Ah, you hesitated. Do you think you'll be going on a very, very expensive cruise this year and spending thousands and thousands of euros on a holiday?
I doubt that for sure.
Why?
Because finally I have started to do up my flat. Do you remember the long saga of me delaying the work to be done in my flat? Well, I've started. I've started to do up my flat. A third la reforma. So I doubt I'll be spending much money on holidays. I have to spend it all on the flat.
Yeah, I doubt you'll have the money for a really expensive holiday. So be careful because there's an expression in Spanish which is similar. It's tengo duda. Tengo duda. And many Spanish speakers mistranslate that. They don't translate it accurately. They say, I have a doubt, which is possible in English, but not very common. I would translate tengo duda to I'm not sure. So I'm not sure what I'm doing tomorrow. I'm not sure where I'm going on holiday. Do you agree with that, Reza?
Yeah. As Craig says, I have a doubt. Just doesn't sound very good. It's not wrong, but it's not the typical way a native speaker would say it. Mm-hmm. Better to say I'm not sure.
So Reza hesitated when I asked him the question about the holiday. When you hesitate is when you're going to do something and then you stop for a second to think about it. So I hesitated before taking the last chocolate brownie.
Yes, he hesitated, but not for long.
Not for long, no.
He took it, but there was a slight hesitation. Craig, did you know that Valencians are known to be impulsive and not to hesitate?
No, I didn't know that.
Yep. They have an expression in Valencian language, so it's not exactly Spanish, it's a different language. Have you heard pensatifet?
I have, but I didn't connect it to the meaning of not hesitating.
Yeah. So pensat, pensado, and fet, hecho, it means thought and done.
So you just do something without thinking?
Well, as soon as you have the idea, you do it with no hesitation. You have the idea, do it. Don't think too much about it. Don't hesitate. Just put your thoughts into action.
Right. So, Patricia, the meanings of those two words are quite similar. Just remember that doubting is when you think you can't achieve something or you underestimate your ability. And hesitate is when you stop for a few moments before you do it. So you think about something before doing it.
Craig, if someone asked you about looking for an online teacher on internet, what would you tell them?
I would have no hesitation in recommending italki if you're looking for an online teacher. And we are delighted to welcome back italki as a sponsor of Aprender Ingles con Reza y Craig. And I don't know about you, Reza, but we were not sponsors of italki for maybe a year or 2 years, but I never stopped recommending them to any student who was looking for a teacher online.
Yeah, me too. And over the last couple of years, many people that I've advised to try italki have tried it out, and all of them were good results. You can't really go wrong because in the end of the day, you choose the teacher.
That's right. So we're really happy to have italki back as a sponsor. And it's very easy to use italki. You go to their website, you register, and you choose a teacher. So italki is a website that brings together teachers and students online. Now, when you get to the website, you can see the teacher's video introduction. You can read reviews from students who have studied with various teachers, and then you can filter the teacher that you're interested in, having by price, by location, the qualifications, the accent of the teacher, their availability when you want to study. Then you schedule your first lesson. You choose a date and a time that's convenient for you to take a lesson, and then you connect with the teacher you've chosen, which is usually on Skype or Google Hangouts or Zoom or other online video chat software. So why don't you try it? Why don't you go to our website, inglespodcast.com/253, click on the italki image or link, and you'll go straight to their website. And italki are offering a $10 credit if you sign up through our webpage, inglespodcast.com/253, and click on their link. And thank you very much, italki, for sponsoring Aprender Ingles con Reza y Craig. What's next, Reza?
Well, now we have some questions which arrived via email all the way from Argentina, from Daniela. I think she has 5 questions. Is that right, Craig?
Yeah, 5 questions. Hi, Daniela.
Her first one is about Coffee with Craig. Now, some of you will know what that is, but some of you might not be sure. Coffee with, well, better if Craig explains it to you. What was or what is Coffee with Craig?
Coffee and Craig on YouTube on the Mansion Ingles channel. They are videos of interviews I did with teachers at our language school. So if you want to practice your listening skills, go to youtube.com/Mansion Ingles and you'll see those videos on YouTube. So those, I think Daniela was listening to or watching those videos and she noticed these language items as she was watching. The first one says, did you ever? I said, apparently, did you ever? And Daniela's saying that have you ever would be the correct way to ask this type of question. For example, did you ever send that email, or have you ever sent that email? What do you think, Reza?
Daniela, I disagree. I think it's possible to say, did you ever, correctly. Although I think I know why you said it's not possible. Because some people say, did you ever, incorrectly. Let me explain. Did you ever fly a kite as a child? You could ask. Did you ever? Not have you ever. Did you ever? That is correct English. Because now I'm not a child. So I'm talking about the past, not the present. The present perfect is have you ever, to connect the past and the present. For example, have you ever been on a roller coaster? Have you ever eaten intestines? Have you ever done anything crazy? You know, in your life from now, from the past up to now. So have you ever from the past up to now? But no, I'm not talking about that when I say did you ever? Did you ever fly a kite? Una cometa? As a child. But that's not now. That's the past. So the past simple is correct. Did you ever?
Yeah, because a lot of teachers tend to make very hard black and white rules comparing past simple to present perfect. And what many teachers say is if you're speaking about unfinished time from the past to the present, use have you ever. If you're speaking about a particular time in the past that's not connected to now, use past simple, did you ever. But there's a grey area in the middle. If you're speaking about your childhood when you were young, a time in the past, then you can use past simple. And in American English, I think it's more common to use that did you ever. It's also a little more urgent. Did you ever buy that shirt? Did you ever send that email? Did you ever go out with your friend? So yes, it's speaking about the time up to now, but it's also referring to a time in the past. By the way, did you ever fly a kite as a child? Kite is cometa.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I loved flying kites when I was a child. And you?
My dad bought me a lovely big kite when I was young, and I crashed it the first day and it broke and he didn't replace it.
And that was it?
That was it, yeah.
You had like one day of flying kites?
15 minutes, 10 minutes, and then it crashed and I cried. And I was about 21 years old at the time.
Wow.
No, I'm joking.
21.
No, just once.
You've just reminded me about a fantastic experience I had when I was about 10 or 11. I was flying a kite. I had a kite fight.
Where you try and knock the other kite out of the sky.
Yeah. I had a kite fight over the rooftops of Lahore.
Wow.
That was a brilliant experience with just complete strangers. Some boys opposite us had a kite, we had a kite, and it's a very old tradition in Lahore. They're really into their kites. We had a kite fight. I think they won. They really knew what they were doing. We didn't last very long, but it was good fun. So you literally steer, you drive your kite into theirs in such a way that you try and make theirs go down. But they beat us, so our kite went down.
And I think sometimes they put razor blades on the tails.
There's all sorts
to
of
cut
tricks.
the string.
Yeah, all sorts of
I've heard
tricks.
about that.
It was brilliant fun, though.
Daniela's second question is, if I want to say no me anime a hablarle, is it okay to use the verb encourage? Should I say I didn't encourage, or I didn't encourage myself to talk to him?
I wouldn't say that. I don't know about you.
No.
You don't normally talk about encouraging yourself. No. You encourage other people to do things, right?
But is I didn't encourage a good translation of no me anime a hablarle? I don't think it is.
No.
I would say perhaps I didn't feel like speaking to him
Yeah.
or talking to him.
I didn't feel like talking to him.
I didn't feel up to talking to him. To feel up to something is to tener ganas hacer algo.
Or I didn't feel motivated, maybe, but not encouraged. No.
No.
Encourage is one person trying to get another person to do something.
What's her third question, Reza?
Our third one is, if I want to say, me hubiera o hubiese gustado ser doctor, should I say, I would have liked to be a doctor?
That sounds right to me.
Yep, me too. But there's another possibility, I would say. There are two possibilities here. I would have liked to be a doctor, or I would have liked to have been a doctor. They're
of course,
both
yes.
possible.
Yes.
They're both possible. Because after would like, we always use an infinitive. For example, tonight, I would like to have chips for my dinner. Or tomorrow, I would like to visit my grandmother. So would like plus infinitive. Yeah, but there's more than one type of infinitive. Right now, I would like to be sailing in a boat in the Caribbean. That's what I would like to be doing now. Sailing in a boat in the Caribbean. Right now. To be sailing is an infinitive, but it's the progressive, it's the continuous infinitive. And here, in our sentence, we could say, I would have liked to have been a doctor. And that to have been is infinitive, but it's the perfect infinitive to talk about situations in the past. So we could use the normal infinitive, to be, or we could use the perfect infinitive, to have been. And you know what? As far as I know, it's exactly the same in Spanish. You can say in Spanish, me habría gustado ser médico, o me habría gustado haber sido médico. They're both possible in Spanish as well. It's just like English.
And one more thing. Notice how Reza said, I would have liked. It contracts. I would have. I would have liked to be a doctor. I would have liked to have been a doctor.
I would have liked to be a doctor, or I would have liked to have been a doctor.
Would have. Number 4 of Daniela's questions. If I want to say, me gustaría haber visto Valencia cuando fui a España, o me hubiese gustado visitar Valencia cuando fui a España. How do we translate that? Daniela's suggestions are, I would like to have visited Valencia when I went to Spain, or I would have liked to visit Valencia when I went to Spain. And her question is, are both grammatically okay?
Yeah.
They are quite similar, aren't they?
I would like plus the perfect infinitive, to have visited. And her other option was, I would have liked, which
To visit.
to visit, which is, well, now, let's go back a bit. Let's go back a bit. So I said about 5 minutes ago that there are actually 4 types of infinitive. You've got the normal infinitive, for example, to eat, the progressive infinitive, to be eating, the perfect infinitive, to have eaten, and the perfect progressive infinitive, to have been eating. Okay? Now, we got the infinitive with to, and we got the infinitive without to in English. So I can say to eat or just eat. or to have eaten or have eaten. So we got infinitive with to, infinitive without to. Okay. Would is a modal verb or a modal auxiliary. Would, might, may, can, must, all those verbs. Modal auxiliaries. And they're always followed by infinitive without to. So would must be followed by infinitive without to. That's why we say I would like or she would like. We don't say she would plus likes, not likes.
Because the verb never changes after the modal verb.
Yeah. After would, we must use infinitive without to. So
And it doesn't change, it doesn't inflect, it doesn't change.
no inflection. Even for the third person singular. So I would like, you would like, she would like. That's one thing, right? And then after we say I would like, you're obliged to use an infinitive with to. After would, we use infinitive without to. I would like, I would go, I would eat, I would run, I would travel, I would podcast. After the expression would like, we use infinitive with to. So we have an infinitive without to followed by an infinitive with to. That's why we say I would like, infinitive without to have visited, infinitive with to. It's actually rather a complicated construction.
If this is a bit too complicated for you just listening to us, then remember you can go to the website and see these examples in the show notes. That's inglespodcast.com/253. But they're both correct, aren't they, Reza?
Yeah.
Both of these. I would like to have visited Valencia, or I would have liked to visit Valencia when I went to Spain. Yes, Daniela, both are grammatically okay.
The fifth one, she asks, is it the same in English to say, I went to Spain or I was in Spain? So the verb go, I went to Spain, or the verb to be, I was in Spain. Is there any difference? Because I think that I've read something about using the verb go, or went, in this case, in the past, or using the verb be, or was, in this case, in the past. Is it better to use one instead of the other? That's a good question.
I think it depends on the context. I mean, if I say I'm in the UK, for example, and I'm speaking to my friend in the UK and he knows I can speak Spanish. You know, where did you learn Spanish? Oh, when I was in Spain, I learned Spanish. I wouldn't say I went to Spain when I learned Spanish, because the going to the place is usually, depending on the context, just a one-time thing. It just happens. You go somewhere. I went to Spain in 1999, for example. When I was in Spain, I learned Spanish. I learned how to cook paella. I had siestas every day during the time I was in Spain. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, exactly.
Although there are some contexts when it wouldn't matter, it wouldn't be important. Yeah. But generally speaking, Daniela, that's the difference.
Yeah, for me, as Craig says, I went to Spain, so go to a place, the focus is on the movement from one place to another place. I went from Britain to Spain, for example. But when I was in Spain, I learned Spanish. To be in a place is to talk about what you did when you were in that place. So it's not about the movement to get there, but you're going to tell me about the things you did when you were there. So to go to a place is about the movement from one place to another, but to be in a place is to tell me what you did when you were already in that place.
So we hope that's helped, Daniela. Thank you very much for your questions. Next, we have a very, very quick question and a very, very, very quick answer from me anyway, from the questions from Alberto from Milano.
Hi, Reza and Craig. Here is Alberto speaking from Milano, and I am always walking with my dog down in the street. So, as usual, sorry for the noise. I'm recording this message just for a suggestion. Here in Italy, we are reading lots of news about Brexit, and I think it's quite difficult to understand what's really happening in in Ireland, Northern Ireland, the border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, about Scotland. It's quite difficult to understand what's going to happen on March 29th. So this is my suggestion. Why don't you record a podcast, an episode about Brexit? Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thanks very much for your message, Alberto. It's a really good idea to walk your dog and listen to podcasts at the same time. You're multitasking. And don't worry about the noise. Your message was very clear and you have very good English. Thank you very much for your suggestion about Brexit, but it's changing so quickly. The situation's changing on a daily basis that for now we're going to wait and see how it happens. And to be honest, I don't really understand what's going on either.
Yes, I totally agree with Craig. Maybe Alberto will revisit this subject in the future when it's a bit clearer, but it's a bit too confusing now to be able to explain. These podcasts are not live, as you all know. They're recorded, and then every Sunday a new episode is released. As we are recording this podcast, the United Kingdom is in the European Union, but it was due to leave today, but that hasn't happened. We don't know when it's going to leave. So maybe by the time you actually listen to this podcast, we may have left. That is how complicated it is and how unclear.
I guarantee, Alberto, that if you're listening to this or anyone is listening to this podcast in 6 months' time, nobody will even care about Brexit. There'll be something different in the news. So you can probably tell, Alberto, I don't have much patience anymore for the Brexit process.
I'll just say one more thing about Brexit, but a funny thing. Don't worry, I'm not going to get all serious. Obviously, Craig and I know the opinions of a lot of Spanish people and a lot of people from the Hispanic world and their opinions on Brexit. But for me, the funniest views of Brexit come from the French. France is the only country in Europe where they actively want us to get out. They've carried out questionnaires, and in most countries they either say, oh, the British should stay, or they're honest and they say, we don't really care and we're getting bored of the whole story. But not in France. Oh, no. In France, they do care. They want us to go. They want us to leave. They do care about it. They want to get rid of us. It's
no surprises. I'm not surprised. I will say one more thing about Brexit. I'm really, really, really happy to be living in Spain. Next, we have a voice message from Danielle from El Salvador.
Hi, Craig. Hi, Reza. I'm Daniel from El Salvador. I want to tell you that you are so important in my life. I listened to you a year ago and you encouraged me to looking forward with my English. And I think to the other people too. I only say thanks for everything and good luck. Just one question. I'm in the level B1 of listening. Please let me know if I practice for about 3 or 4 hours. How long will I take for pass to the level C1 of listening? Could you give me some tips about how do I improve my listening faster? Thanks a lot. Goodbye.
Thank you very much, Danielle. It's a real pleasure to get a message from El Salvador. We don't get many, so thank you very much for sending in your voice message. One small thing, Danielle, on something you said in your message. You said you encourage me to looking forward to my English. We can improve that. When you look forward to something, Danielle, then tienes mucha ilusión. Something's going to happen in the future that you're really excited about. I'm looking forward to my birthday. I'm looking forward to my holiday. I'm really looking forward to Christmas, because you're waiting in positive anticipation for something. So it's not really correct in this context. I think it would be better to say, you really encourage me to improve my English. And about specific tips for listening, well, we are going to do a full, complete podcast on how to improve your listening in 2 or 3 weeks. So keep listening, Danielle, and I think you'll get more tips. But very quickly, make sure that you listen to as much English as possible from as many different sources, fuentes, as possible. So listen to music, TV series, podcasts like ours and others that you can listen to on the internet. Listen to the news from the BBC, from CNN, from the Australian Broadcasting Company, different accents, different styles and types of listening. And at the same time, do exam practices. The exam tasks that normally you find in course books or past papers. So as well as doing casual listening from different sources, you're also practicing on the kind of task or exercise that you need to do to pass the exam.
Yes, I think Craig's advice is very good, because by doing all that listening practice, you will hear many different ways of saying the same thing. And I think that's one of the key elements to doing well in a C1 or C2 listening exam, because very often you will not hear the words which you need to write as your answer for the questions and the listening. In other words, they use synonyms, they paraphrase. Yeah. So, for example, imagine you have to fill in a space and it says Peter tea, and the answer is Peter doesn't like tea. Well, Peter will never say, I don't like tea. Nah, that's far too easy. What you will hear is Peter says, I'm not that keen on tea. So you need to know that I'm not that keen on tea means he doesn't like tea.
Synonyms. Yeah.
Synonyms, paraphrasing, that's what they really test. So don't be surprised if you don't hear the words that you need to write. They're going to say them in a different way. So the more you do listening practice, the more you'll get better at paraphrasing.
Yeah, and as I say, keep listening, Danielle, because we are going to speak about listening advice and tips in detail in a couple of weeks. And how many hours, how much time will it take for you to go up to C1 level? That's very difficult for us to say. It really depends on how you're improving, isn't it, Reza? It's not easy to give an estimation of how long.
And every individual is different. Some people progress more quickly than others. It depends how much time you have to study, to dedicate, both inside a class or outside a class. All these factors determine how quickly you progress. So for each individual, it's different.
One thing I will say, Danielle, is the more you listen, the better you will get. So listen as much as possible, and always make sure that the listening is just a little above your level. So not too difficult, but not too easy. Just a little above your current level of English. Next, we have an email from Cecilia. What does Cecilia say, Reza?
Yes, this is our second email from Argentina today. This is a funny story. She says, Dear Craig, or she writes, Dear Craig and Reza.
She said it as well, but I couldn't understand it.
Okay.
It was a bad recording.
There was a recording as well as
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in her email, she writes, Dear Craig and Reza, you will receive a very bad recording, if any, on my anecdote with the word panties. And Craig can confirm that the recording was very bad.
Yeah, unfortunately, I couldn't understand enough of the audio, so I didn't include it in the podcast. But she wrote the same thing in the email.
So remember that with the word panties, so I got to be careful what I say, but this all revolves around panties. Let's see what she says about that.
It's all about the panties.
She wrote, I'm from Argentina and have worked for some time at the US Embassy. Interesting job. One day, one of my colleagues came to my office and I simply loved her panties. She wrote the word panties in inverted commas. I loved her panties. So that's what I told her. She looked at me in complete awe. I think she means complete horror. That would be a more typical expression. Temor or asombro. Complete horror, and asked me, What did you say? Can you see my underwear? Gosh, no. I meant your hoses. I love them. And she answered me in relief, "Oh, you meant pantyhose." Yes, of course.
Yeah, and she continues, so Argentine women, when you talk to an American peer, that's P-W-E-R, peer, colega, when you talk to an American peer, just keep in mind to use the word pantyhose, or just hose, when you mean medibacha. Medibacha, I never heard that word before.
It must be in Argentina. It's not typical here.
medibacha. Medibacha, which are medias, bombacha, or pantaletas, or bragas. Yeah, bragas is more common over here in Spain. All the best, Cecilia. Yeah, that's an interesting case of confusing words and vocabulary that's different in US English and British English. Because in British English, we would say tights.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't say hose. We'd say pantyhose, but not hose, because hose is manguera.
Yes, personally myself, I wouldn't even say pantyhose. I understand the word, but I would always say tights for medias.
Yeah, I think pantyhose would be, again, more US English, more American English.
And definitely not just hose on its own, which is manguera, like a water hose for washing your car.
For a fireman, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you very much, Cecilia. We enjoyed reading your story. And if you have a funny story in which you made a mistake with English and you communicated the wrong message, please let us know and we'll be happy to include it in a future episode. Do you have any funny stories about confusing Spanish words? I used to confuse mierdo and mierda.
What's mierdo? I don't know it.
Fear. Miedo.
Miedo. Okay.
You see, I still can't say it correctly. Miedo.
Miedo and what?
Mierda.
You really want to say that?
Shit.
It's
yeah,
shit.
I used to say tengo mierda.
I like it.
I'm afraid, tengo mierda.
Well, me and I know some of my compatriots from the United Kingdom and other English-speaking countries have confused the word pollo with another word, but I'd prefer not to say even what it is.
Well, the one ending with an A.
Yes, the feminine version of pollo. I have gone into a butcher's, un carnicero, and I've said, oye, ¿tienes? And I meant to say... I meant to say pollo. That's what I wanted to say, but I used the feminine ending, and he was very upset.
Did you say tienes un pollo grande?
Yeah, I said, y quiero como mínimo 2 kilos. And he looked at me like I would asked him for something impossible. I don't know. So yes, that's a very common mistake. Masculine and feminine endings cause a lot of mistakes, as Craig has demonstrated with his miedo mierda. Mm-hmm. You can get into a lot of trouble.
Yeah. Next, we have a voice message from Roberto about subscribing to our newsletter. Here's Roberto.
Hi, buddy. I was saying that I would like to subscribe to your page and get monthly summary of episodes, news and information, and special over-earned recommendations. Thank you.
Yes, Roberto, thank you for asking about that. If you don't know, you can subscribe to our monthly newsletter over at inglespodcast.com. You can see on the right side of the homepage, you put your email address, your name, and every month we send you news of the podcasts we've made in that month so that you don't miss any. And if there's any news, anything that's happening, we also tell you in this newsletter. So it's completely free, and you can find that on the website at inglespodcast.com.
We also have a question on the website, and it comes from Valeria from Bolivia. And her question is, what is the difference between overcome and get over when we are talking about emotions?
Well, overcome, I think, translates to superar. When you beat an obstacle, for example, you can overcome a problem. You can overcome a fear. If you have a fear of flying, you're afraid to fly. if you solve that problem and you're flying happily, then you've overcome your fear of flying.
Yes, if you know your history about the United States, the civil rights campaigners in the 1960s, in the face of a lot of opposition and difficulties, their slogan was, "We shall overcome."
There's a song, wasn't there? We shall overcome.
We shall overcome.
My Lord.
And all of that. So they faced a lot of obstacles, a lot of problems, there were a lot of difficulties, but they tried and eventually they did overcome, superar, the problems.
And the past they overcame. So they overcame their problems. So overcome, superar, get over, recuperarse. You get over a cold, for example. You had a cold about 2 weeks ago. Did you catch a cold in Belfast?
I've only just got over it. I had it until yesterday. Yeah.
So
just got over. I've just recuperated. I've just got over a cold. I had it for a long time.
You can also get over a relationship if you get divorced, for example, and you're emotionally very affected, you're negatively affected by the breakup, by the divorce, the breakup of the relationship. Maybe it takes you some time to get over it, to recover from it.
Well, that's about it for this week. And now it's your turn to practice your English. Why don't you send us a voice message? Just go to speakpipe.com/Ingles podcast and you can leave us an audio, a voice message. Or you could send us a written email with a comment or question. You could send it to me at belfastreza@gmail.com.
Or to me, Craig@inglespodcast.com. And before we go, we want to thank our wonderful patrons who continue to support the podcast on patreon.com. And as always, special thanks to Bruno, our gold sponsor, who offers walking tours of Copenhagen in English and Spanish. So if you're going to that wonderful city, check out his website, copenhagenwalkingtour.com. Go there for more details. And also if you're going to Rio de Janeiro and you would like a tour of the favela area by local guides, it's a very safe and organized tour, and it helps the community to improve their conditions in the favela. The website for details on that, favelawalkingtour.com.br.
The names of all our Patreon sponsors are on the show notes, but we'd just like to mention our two new, most recent Patreon supporters. They are Carlos and Abel Nunes. Thank you very much for joining the Patreon scheme.
Yeah, thanks guys. On next week's episode, we're speaking about Ecuador. So join us for that. Until then, it's goodbye from Reza.
And goodbye from Craig.
The music in this podcast is by Pitts. The track is called See You Later.